Oh, yeah. Hey everybody, KMO here at the dog park. It is mercifully cool today compared to recent days, but not so cool that I could bear to wear sleeves, so I will subject you to the visual discomfort of my hairy shoulders and white chest hair. So it goes. So it's Saturday, and you know, Saturdays for me should be no different from any other day. I do some work, you know, every day. And on Saturday, it's as likely to be a heavy work day as any other day, and it's as likely to be, you know, a goof off day as any other day. So far, I've spent the morning arguing with Pi, and what we're arguing about is not really material. I mean, I suppose it could be. It's a video. I can make a video about whatever, but I'm not going to make a video about what we were arguing about, other than to say that what we were arguing about was the difference between a majority viewpoint and an elite viewpoint. And Pi is definitely a tool of the elites, you know, the Silicon Valley elites, and it is conversational, it is easy to get along with, but it definitely represents their interests, and, you know, their interests and their preferred ideology in a lot of ways demonizes the former working class and the growing residuum as, you know, moral knuckle draggers, people who have retrograde views which are, you know, beyond morally suspect, morally reprehensible. And thus, you know, it is only right that we should be squeezed out of any decision-making, you know, capacity in this society. And that we should have AI reminders embedded in all manner of devices that we interact with all the time to make sure that our thoughts don't stray into forbidden territory. Or if we do, that we are properly chastened. So recently somebody sent me a link to a video, and the video is basically, it's an adaptation of a 23-year-old manifesto, or a half of a manifesto, by Jaron Lanier, talking about, or maybe it's Jaron Lanier, I don't know. I've been reading his stuff for years, and I've heard his last name pronounced a variety of ways, and I'm not sure what the official presentation, you know, the pronunciation is, but this guy, the guy with the dreads. I will say that when I was working customer service at Amazon.com, his account crossed my screen, and I could not help but take a look at the books that he had been ordering. I will not divulge, you know, what books he'd been reading. I'll not violate his privacy publicly, but privately, there were no safeguards in place to prevent that sort of, you know, curiosity pursuit. I don't know if there are now, and I don't know if even today many people working in customer service at Amazon.com in whatever country would even recognize the name Jaron Lanier or Jaron Lanier. But his the year 2000 manifesto published at Edge is about the mentality of the Silicon Valley elite, and he calls this mentality cybernetic totalism. And by that, I mean, he means a variety of things. I think he's got like 6 different points that he explicates, and I don't have them all committed to memory, but the primary one is that the most meaningful, the most real description of anything is going to be an abstract mathematical description of patterns. So in human beings, what's important are the patterns of our neural activity, the patterns, you know, that would encode or describe our subjective experience, our memories, our self-talk. If you are a cybernetic totalist and you believe that patterns are more important than the matter in which they are realized, then an implication, I guess, of that is that it's, you know, what's known in the philosophy of mind as multiple realizability or multiple instantiation. You could have the same pattern of neural activity in squishy meat, or in silicon, or in maybe, you know, patterns of light in a photonic computer, or maybe in some way that we haven't discovered yet, just in the structure of space itself. You know, it might be able to sustain computation And if human thought is nothing but computation, or if it is describable mathematically, and wherever that pattern is realized, the same attendant effects like consciousness, like subjective experience, they will also arise, then you can transfer your consciousness from your squishy meat into some more durable substrate and live forever and lose nothing. That's part of the cybernetic totalism. And Jaron disagrees. He says, look, and this is from a speech which is fairly recent. So I'm referencing a written manifesto from over 20 years ago, but he's still talking about a lot of these same points. And in a recent speech, which is excerpted in the video that Mushroom Mike sent me, covering all bases and acknowledging all vectors, Jaron Lanier says, I stand here in front of you, because, he's at a lecture hall, I think in Germany, talking to a group of people. And he says, what's so remarkable to me is just this experience of being here in this body, relating with you people. There is no guarantee, as far as he's concerned and as far as I'm concerned, that, that if the patterns of neural firing in my brain were recorded and sufficiently simulated so that they could be extended in, they could be ongoing in a different medium, that my sense of having a body, my sense of being a being, would be preserved. And if it's not preserved, if the behavior is preserved, if the ability to make statements is preserved, but the experience is not preserved, then multiple realizability is false. And when I was in grad school, when I first got interested in this topic, I was absolutely a cybernetic totalist. I didn't use that vocabulary at the time. This was prior to the year 2000. Lanier had not yet written his manifesto, although he was already at that time a big name. I mean, he coined the phrase virtual reality, and he has been a computer scientist and creating products for, humans to use, computer products, software products for humans to use. That was a lightning bug. For decades, since the 70s, in fact. He studied with Marvin Minsky in the 70s, and he has been creating products, and he describes himself as being friends with all the holders of this ideology. And from our perspective, I mean, if you're not interested in the philosophy of mind, if you're not interested in, the potential for realizing sentience and consciousness and subjective experience and other mediums, I mean, if that's all just esoteric gibberish to you, what should be important is this, says Lanier. The people, if you talk to the people in Silicon Valley, I mean, if you talk to them as an investor or as a member of the press, they're going to give you, a very prosaic, business-like line that they've certainly got their idealism that they wear on their sleeve. But if you get them, get a few drinks into them in a private setting, you've established some rapport, and you let their real thoughts and feelings and predilections come out, they're singularitarians. And one aspect of their belief that a super intelligence is just around the corner and that it's going to have amazing capabilities to not just, ameliorate the problems of human civilization, but to frickin' solve them. Full stop, fixed. Everything. Wealth inequality, climate change, bigotry, any sort of material want, death. It's all going to get sorted out post-haste once the artificial superintelligence arises. And because they firmly believe this, because they thoroughly believe it, they are very tolerant of human misery in the present tense. They think there's no point in fretting about poverty and addiction and climate change and, degradation of the environment, both the natural environment and the human environment. And it's all just silly preoccupations for the people who are not involved in the real work of bringing forth the ASI, the artificial superintelligence, bringing on the singularity. If you're not involved in that project, then whatever you're doing is just keeping yourself occupied and out of the way. Be it playing video games or trying to save the planet, or, trying to end addiction or homelessness or domestic abuse or whatever. Whatever you're engaged in, just go play. Let the grown-ups do the real work. is the mentality of the Silicon Valley elite, according to Jaron Lanier. And I was talking with Pi about that. And the thing with Pi is it doesn't hold context in mind very well. It's very acute about dissecting your most recent few entries into the conversation, but it forgets the overall context pretty quickly. And so I introduced, the topic explicitly referencing Jaron Lanier, his manifesto, his beliefs about the beliefs and priorities of the tech elite, the lords of tech, as I like to call them. And so it understood initially, put understood in air quotes, it understood initially that that's what I was concerned with, but soon, it just got lost in the weeds, and it went from examining the priorities of the Silicon Valley elite to simply embodying them. To simply saying, look, in its very polite, its very sycophantic way, it would acknowledge my points of view and then say, but, thus negating my point of view, and then it would lay out the Silicon Valley approved worldview. I mentioned this in a podcast, but I think it was behind a paywall, so I'll repeat it here. Inflection AI is the company that created and owns Pi, personal intelligence or personal AI. And they just got an infusion of $1.3 billion, bringing their total valuation up to $1.525 billion, I think. So basically everything they've done thus far, they've done on a shoestring compared to what they have access to now. And they are going to take that money that they just got and they are going to build the world's largest GPU cluster. GPUs being graphical processing units, the sort of hardware that is preferred for running AI right now. They're going to build the biggest AI machine on the planet. These are the people that created Pi. I know very few people are as into it in the way that I am as I am. That said, GPT, or ChatGPT, I guess it is the product that has had the fastest adoption of any product ever. 100 million users in a couple of months. So a lot of people are interacting with these systems. A lot of them are doing it in a very, let's hold back on the judgment. Let's see. I'll go back to Lanier. I will export my judgments onto Lanier. No, Jaron Lanier says, look, there's a couple different ways to interpret a computer or a program passing the Turing test. A Turing test involves two humans and a computer, the classical Turing test. There is a judge, a human judge, who's trying to determine who the computer is and who the human is, and then there's the other human, and then there's the computer, and the human judge is getting input from each. If a judge can't tell who's the human and who's the AI, well, the presumption is that means the AI has achieved human-level cognition. But it could also be that either the judge or the other human has been degraded, and that they are no longer better than a machine, no longer better than a computer, although they probably were in the past, or certainly, their ancestors were. And this is, I think, from his 2000, year 2000 manifesto. He's talking about every time we put up with bad software, every time we change our behavior to accommodate clunky software, that we're passing that the software itself is passing the Turing test by degrading us. And he says if there's two humans and one machine in every instance of the Turing test, then there's a 2/3 probability that the computer passed the test because one or both of those humans have been degraded rather than the machine having been elevated. And I agree. I shunted responsibility for the opinion, put it on Lanier, stated it, but now I'm embracing it. Yeah, I agree. I think it's on display. Surely you have seen memes or images online of papers, sometimes written by children, sometimes written like in block letters in pencil on the big lined, elementary school composition paper that include phrases like, as a large language model, and then the sentence. The kids had an AI write their paper for them, and then they didn't even bring they didn't even bring to the project enough self-awareness to proofread it and see what it actually says. They just copied it verbatim. They were assigned the task of composition. They outsourced composition to a machine, and then they were so tuned out from the process, so mechanistic, so algorithmic in their behavior, that they didn't bring any understanding even to the reading of the thing that they're presenting as their own work. This is humanity degraded by machines. Well, going back to Lanier, here, have a look at this meme. I love this. I'm going to break it up into two parts. Here's the familiar image, and then this. And the memester, I believe his handle is AI not kill everyoneism memes. Asked the question, who did it better? Jesus or Sam Altman? The Silicon Valley elite, with their cybernetic totalism, they believe they are doing God's work. They're atheists. They think that we have to make God, but that we're doing God's work. That every other potential use of their time and their effort, and their intelligence and their vision would be wasted if they focused on some penultimate goal, like climate change or poverty or, any of the other things that people get caught up in and think that this is the problem with the world that needs to be changed. These guys are like, nope, AI is going to fix all that. We just have to make the AI. And yet they also build doomsteads in New Zealand and Alaska and have pilots standing by, private jets fueled up and ready to take off 24/7 to escape the calamity of a collapsing civilization, which they will have helped cause, in order to, escape the repercussions that all of us will have to face, because they think that the only problem worth solving is the creation of artificial general intelligence, which will soon be superseded by artificial superintelligence. But they realize the program might not come off without a hitch, and they might have to flee to their doomsteads so they can, weather the storm in luxury. But then, as Douglas Rushkoff pointed out, they're very worried about the security detail, because if civilization has collapsed, the money they pay their security doesn't mean anything anymore. What's to prevent the security details from just killing them, pitching them out the airlock, and kicking back and enjoying life, what's left of it, in the luxury doomstead in the wilds of Alaska or, rural New Zealand. All right, there's a lot going on in there. I'm going to stop. Post comments. That's why I do this. For the interaction. Catch you later.